Hello and welcome to Play Talk Repeat episode 6.5. As always, I'm Oliver and I'm joined by Alex and Lewis.
Hello.
So this is just like a mini episode. We're going to call it like a spoiler cast or a bonus cast or something along those lines. Well, we're continuing on from our review of Metroid Dread from the previous episode because Niall was there and he hadn't completed it. And we wanted to kind of split the spoilers out from the main episode so we can talk about like the story and the final boss and the absolutely banging ending. But first, I want to talk about a little bit of news. No, it's not a news podcast, but I want to talk about it. So Blizzard and Activision are continuing to destroy the industry. And it seems like Vicarious Visions is going to be no more. Now, if you don't know what Vicarious Visions were, they are the developer who developed Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. And as far as I'm aware, including the remasters, so they did that with Toys for Bob as well. So we know there's not going to be any more Spyro or Crash remakes or any more games like that. No Spyro 4 or anything like that. I don't think there's going to be any more remasters of Pro Skater. So I think we should just shit on Blizzard for a little bit.
Yeah, I did see that. I did see that yesterday. They've been forced into making Call of Duty Warzone skins. So
it's just fucking madness.
I don't know why they're wasting so much talent on COD. Like, I'm not saying to work on COD. Like, if you work on COD, you have no talent. But like, I'm sure there's other people they can hire who are looking for jobs who can like do what they need to do. Because it's not like Vicarious Visions are just random people. They have like an insane track record with the games, especially in the recent years with the remake stuff. But yeah, now they're just sort of dead, and it's kind of sad, but you can't really do anything about it.
It just seems so gigantically anti-consumer. For a company that really should be putting, trying to get themselves in the good books again, it's just mad. It's just crazy anti-consumer. It's just obviously a money move. You know what I mean?
That's the thing though, because it's weird because the Spyro and Crash remakes did really well, and Crash 4 did really well. So it just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it's because Warzone's doing better. I guess that's the only thing. It's just
the amount
of money.
That's for some reason.
Well, that's the thing. The money is in multiplayer games, isn't it? You make money from single player games, but that stops at a point. With COD and whatever other multiplayer stuff you're making, that's continuous money as long as you're providing content. So I guess if they had no plans for like another Tony Hawk's or whatever, like I guess it's better to use them on something like that. But I feel like they would have happily made a part 3 to like Pro Skater or whatever if they were asked to. Like, because I'm sure they love the series that they worked on. Otherwise, they wouldn't have remade Tony Hawk's. They would have given it to someone else.
Yeah, this is the issue. They're not making the decisions. They don't really get to decide what they work on.
Oh yeah. Well, you have to remember at the end of the day, Vicarious Visions is a really small company as well. It's not very big, so yeah. Blizzard probably just literally decided they were going to eat them. And
so this is a bit of a big question, but do you think in let's say in the far future, let's say 20, 30 years from now, do you think there's a place for story-driven single-player games anymore?
I hope so.
I certainly hope so.
I think there's always going to be a place, but I feel like they're going to slowly thin out because, like I said, it's become more about money now. Like, it was always about money, but it's really about money now, just due to the way the gaming economy is, like, shifted into, like, loot boxes and skins and battle passes, and like, that's where the money is. And obviously, early 2000s, early 2010s, we didn't really have anything to compare it to. Like, single-player games did what they did, and companies knew how much they'd make, and like obviously that's what sold, but it's not really possible to argue that these multiplayer games with all these features aren't making like a crap ton of money. And obviously that's all companies care about at the end of the day. They don't care about if people like the game or not, or about making bangers. Well, maybe the studios do, but the actual Activision, like Division for example, the company that owns all of these studios, they just care about the dollar bills, really, so they're going to go where the money is.
I think one company we can rely on to always make single player games is Nintendo, really, because if
I was literally about to say that
if they didn't, they'd have to upgrade their online servers. So.
Yeah, literally, they don't have a choice.
Yeah, and if we're paying what we're paying now for the shit we get, I imagine how much it cost if they actually put in decent servers.
I know.
Anyway. Moving back round to a single player story driven game, we're talking about Metroid Dread. So So a segue then. That was good. That I like that.
Yeah, it was
It
great.
was perfect.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm just going to do a quick introduction to the story. I've written up a little summary of the story going into it. So, following on from the events of Metroid Fusion, the Galactic Federation receives video footage from an unknown source that suggests that X-Parasites have survived the events of the previous games. The Federation's response to this is to send a unit of Emmy robots to investigate. Unfortunately, the Federation will lose contact with these robots shortly after. Samus is sent to investigate, as she is the only person with an immunity to the X-Parasite, and apparently if they need someone to investigate a lonely planet somewhere, it's just Samus is always... You never see her getting any bounties, do you? Never see her doing that for a bounty hunter. She's the only person immune to the X-Parasite. Shortly after arriving, Samus is attacked by a Chozo, one of the once thought extinct race of bird people that raised Samus.
Bird people.
So the story in this game, how do we feel about it? I know it's probably the most story-heavy game, at least in the 2D series.
I'll let someone else go first. Someone get the thoughts.
Lewis wasn't ready for the question.
It wasn't
Oh
ready.
no, I'm ready. I just don't want to take away the spotlight from everyone else. So.
Alex, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I thought the story was fine. It pretty much just elaborated from Zero Mission because it was just sort of confusing at the end where it was just like, yeah, Samus was raised by bird people, and then it was just sort of like, all right, and then we find out that actually, shall I say it now because it's spoiler cast?
Yeah, go for it.
Ravenbeak's a dad.
Is that actually
Crazy.
literal? Is Ravenbeak actually a dad?
Well,
did you not watch the cutscene?
I watched the cutscene, but I thought it was just like, I don't know, like a stepdad, I don't know, kind of thing, like adopted.
No,
dad.
it's one of those things where it's like he's technically just straight up because she got her Morkin DNA from him, which is pretty much her like human, well, her the Chozo side.
Yeah.
So he's technically her dad based on DNA. I don't think Ravenbeak impregnated Samus's mother or anything. But she's got his DNA. So yeah, basically,
test tube, baby.
Pretty much, yeah. That's what I took from it.
Yeah, but we don't get any answer as to why they did that, do we?
No,
I don't believe so. I mean,
I don't think so.
I don't think it was something that really.
Maybe in those like files that they were.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah,
I didn't read any of them.
There was those like comic things they were doing, but I mean, it's not overly something that needs explaining to me. But yeah, he's technically is related to it. He's pretty much a dad / mom. I don't know which one, but
one of the two.
He's a parent, pretty much, at least. Anyway.
Yeah. So that's really the only kind of story that we get. We get little snippets from Adam going through the Samus's AI commanding officer. We get little snippets here and there, but then around what did I say halfway through the game where you get the big exposition dump.
Yes, I'd say halfway point.
Yeah, it's like you actually get like proper like dialogue and everything. Like they're speaking in obviously it's a made up language, but they're speaking in the Chozo language. And that's where it's Quiet Robe, isn't it? Wait, no, is it Quiet? Is Ravenbeak Samus's dad, or is it Quiet Robe?
No, Ravenbeak.
Ravenbeak.
Yeah, so it's Quiet Robe who does the exposition dump, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who dies like 2 minutes afterwards.
Yeah. That was really sad. You actually hear Samus speak as well, but she speaks in the Chozo language. In Other M, did she speak English?
I don't know. I never played Other M.
I know she speaks. No, I think it is Other M where she speaks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty sure actually.
I think, yeah.
I'm guessing she speaks English because she speaks throughout the entirety of that game.
Yeah, but everyone surprisingly hates the story in that game, so I don't know if that was I don't know if that was a factor to her.
Yeah.
Because Samus never really needed to speak. I was fine with her being silent, and I know it was due to restrictions why she didn't speak, but I'm glad they kept it that way throughout the 2D games and just let her do her thing. Because it was also more impactful when she did speak in this, to be fair.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Well, from what I've heard from Other M, people's issue with the story in that is it's kind of sexist, because
is it?
Well, it's because
that's what I've heard as well.
It's a whole mother and baby thing. I don't know much about the story, so I can't speak too much about it. But that's just what I've heard. That it's the whole mother and like turning Samus from this badass bounty hunter into like basically a mewling mother kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, and apparently she has access to all of her upgrades, but she's not allowed to do it unless this guy tells her to. So it's just sort of like listening to the guy.
Sat there struggling against a boss, not allowed to use your missiles.
I can't use my missiles. He hasn't told me I can.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I've just looked it up real quick just so we got an explanation. The reason she has Chozo DNA is because she lived on a planet, which was the place in the first game, and then space pirates came and took over, so the Chozo took her, and the only way she could survive on the planet was by giving her Chozo DNA that they took her to. So they
Right.
had to give it to her so she could survive.
So he's not technically a father then. He's just providing
No,
DNA.
but
DNA.
she shares his blood pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Okay.
but yeah, she must have a real dad and mother, I guess.
Yeah, well, they do go over that in the manga, but I don't know if that kind of flies.
That's-
It's been a little while since I
yeah.
read it. I don't know if that kind of flies in the face of Metroid's Metroid Dread story now, because I know in the manga, if I remember rightly, she had a human mother and father, and I know the Chozo took her at some point, but Ridley played a big part in it. Like I think Ridley actually killed her mum and dad, and that's why Samus hates Ridley.
I mean, that's cool to be fair, because there's no real reason why they constantly fight each other than Big Dragon go.
Is he a space? He is a space pirate, isn't he, Ridley? I think he's
Yeah,
one of
he
the
is.
space
Yeah,
pirates.
yeah.
It is confusing. I don't. It's hard to keep track of. So moving on after the exposition done by the bird person. So towards the end of the game, Adam, Samus's AI commanding officer, informs Samus that she has basically become a Metroid, but it wasn't Adam at all. From the moment you get onto the planet, I think you might hear from Adam at once, and he tells you to get to the ship. And then from that point on, it's actually Ravenbeak who's speaking to you. And so Samus finds this out and destroys the computer terminal, all pissed off and stuff like that. But obviously the big takeaway from that is that she actually has become a Metroid. She's got Metroid DNA from her various encounters with them over the past 4 games. And Ravenbeak, who knew that Samus was a Metroid, was putting her through all these boss battles and fights and struggles to try and awaken her Metroid DNA. Samus then infiltrates Ravenbeak's ship, and the battle, he reveals he wants to create an army of Samus clones because she's the universe's most powerful Metroid. Samus's true form is then revealed. Now I want to stop here and talk about Samus's true form because it was just dope. I'll put a picture up here. I need to make a note to put a picture up. But what do we think of that suit?
Does that have an official name? Is it just like the Metroid suit?
I don't think it has. I don't know. It might have an official name, but to me, it's just the Metroid suit because she looks like a Metroid.
I mean,
so
yeah,
green
she
and red
yeah.
spiky.
She gets, because that's pretty much when she gets she uses a full Metroid DNA, isn't it? At that point, like they fuse together, she gets full access to it basically.
Yeah,
Which is what allows us to turn into that.
You start to they all click together when you face the final enemy. And
Yes.
she just grabs it by the after these things that have just been hunting you the entire game. She just grabs it by the fucking nose and just absorbs it essentially, and then that's it.
Yeah.
I do love that about Dread, how brutal they act like the hand-to-hand combat felt. Like Samus sometimes would just give no shits, and literally just body slam people and shoot them straight in the face. And I really love that,
Yeah,
especially when she did get a power up at the end. Yeah, because you were just tearing through shit. She didn't care.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was definitely. I don't want to say my favorite part of the game, but it was definitely one of my favorite parts of the game. And all the other games, obviously, when it's blowing up, you're usually more powerful because you've got all of your upgrades by the end point. But like, you really felt unstoppable this time.
Yeah, I
around.
was literally about to say you were unstoppable at that point.
So
Yeah.
this is the final part where you've beaten the boss and you go into the ship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just blow through everything. It was great, and that so the final boss, obviously, before your Metroid itself awakens, it's really really hard, and it's we'll talk about boss fight in a second. But then at the second half of the boss fight, you got your Metroid suit on, and it's essentially you are just blasting it in the face, and that's it. That's all it needed. That's all it took. It was great, and then after that, obviously Samus goes to a ship, which was the goal from the beginning, and she can't escape. She can't escape in a ship because if she touches the controls, her Metroid self will absorb it, and she won't be able to fly. But then Quiet Robe appears, who sacrifices its because it's infected with an X parasite. It sacrifices the X parasite. Goes into Samus, this stabilizes her Metroid DNA so she's more balanced and she's not in the suit anymore, and then she flies away, as she does at the end of every Metroid game.
I honestly thought she was gonna die. To be honest, like I genuinely thought like this was just gonna end it.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it means they won't be able to make more, but I always felt like this was planning to be the last one anyway, so I was ready for her to go. And it honestly would have been quite emotional if she died.
Yeah. They've just been filling in the gaps basically, haven't they? With the other, apart from the main Metroid series, all the rest of them have just been filling in gaps in between games.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be like the end of the series if she died anyway, because we got Metroid Prime 4, which I assume plays after Metroid Prime 3. Yeah.
Also, I've got more lore. I keep reading this. I should have read this page before we started the recording, honestly.
Hit me with it.
So apparently she has 2 types of Chozo DNA, not just the one.
Yeah.
She has one from... So basically half of her DNA... half of her Chozo DNA is from Ravenbeak, which is from the Morkin tribe, which is what gives her battling abilities. And the other half is from the Toha tribe, and it's from a guy called Grey Voice.
Yeah.
Which I don't know who that is, but...
I think he's from Prime.
Is it?
He's from Prime 2.
Is another big chicken. So he got DNA from her, and she got DNA from Greybeak. But apparently Greybeak and Toha both see Samus as their daughter because they share so much of the DNA. So they both view her as their daughter. So in a way, yeah, you can just say Greybeak is a dad. Pretty much her adoptive dad at this point. Even if she didn't want it, it was forced upon her. But she's related to him in a way. She didn't really have a choice. God, the lore goes deep in this. I don't know where all of this was explained, but...
What was he called? Grey Voice?
Yeah.
And he's in the manga.
Is he
It's a manga bird. Manga
so
bird.
that further... So that sounds to be like the manga is canon then.
Yeah, it must be canon. Or somewhat canon.
Yeah. So my headcanon then is that Ridley killed Samus's parents, because that's what I remember from it. Again,
Well, I like that. It makes it way better.
Yeah. I missed Ridley in this game. Did you guys miss Ridley? Like, there's always been a boss fight. You don't miss Ridley. There's always been a boss fight with Ridley.
I did miss Ridley.
Because after every game, I was like, Alex, how is Ridley still fucking alive? I don't get it. How's he back again? I've watched this dude melt like 14 times.
I haven't seen him in Prime.
And also, I think it was a very brave decision for them to not put him in the... They could have easily gone, yeah, Ridley's sick. Everyone loves
Ridley. They brought
Ridley.
Kraid in.
And put him in the game.
Exactly.
I appreciate that. They brought Kraid. They could have literally just said Ridley, slap him in. Everyone loves Ridley fight. But no, they brought back an old fight, and then they gave us a bunch of new fights instead of wasting one of them with Ridley.
Because again, if there was a secret boss fight.
Because again, it's not like Ridley. Other than that one in like Metroid, I think it's Zero Mission where you fight like Robot Ridley at the very, very end. Like all the Ridley fights play the same anyway. He just goes in the air, dives down, slaps you around with his tail. It's just the same thing over and over again. So I don't miss it. It would have been cool if he was there, but I'm not against them not having him. No, it's fine.
I can't remember which Ridley fight I had the most trouble with. I know we kind of diverging here, but there was one of them. It might have been in Super Metroid. I can't remember. But basically, you dropped into a pit, and then Ridley just kind of
the giant pit.
Down,
That
boss fight sucked so much. I hated it.
That was the one I had most trouble with because it felt like it felt like they turned his health up to like 300% compared to every other boss. Because I remember I was at a really awkward thing where I think I had like 50 missiles and I'd used them all and he would still be nowhere near death in that, whereas every other boss would have died long ago. That was definitely the one I struggled with the most as well. Yeah, the Super Metroid one was bollocks.
Yeah, I'd say the Prime 1 boss fight.
Well, how does Ridley look in 3D? What's he saying in 3D?
It looks alright, to be fair.
Okay.
I don't remember him in Prime 2, though.
Is it Meta Ridley? Is it the robot?
No, it's Ridley.
It's just Riddles.
Yeah.
Is it the final?
It's because it's an alternate reality, so it's not the same universe. That's why it's just normal Ridley.
In Metroid Prime 1, it's an alternate reality.
Yeah,
it's not the same as the 2D Metroids.
2D ones, no.
So they're on separate bit.
Oh, I thought because I've read a chronology, and I thought Metroid Prime was like right after Samus Returns in the chronology of it, but so it's just separate.
I mean, it might be one of those things where if you force it into the the order of the games, that's where it would be. But I don't know if it necessarily is there. But because I also think it is a separate timeline from what I've read. I think.
Yeah, well,
because how would you even fit it in the timeline? Yeah, I don't think it'd make any sense.
1 second, let me get a Metroid chronology up. What's a Metroid chronological?
But yeah, I was joking with the Prime one because I know we're talking about 2D Metroid. I'm trying to think what the hardest. It probably was the Super Metroid one, from what I remember.
I think Ridley was the hardest fight in Super Metroid for me. I think.
Yeah.
Right. So this is from Radio Times. So we've got Metroid or Metroid Zero Mission, then we've got Metroid Prime, then Metroid Prime Hunters, then 2 Echoes, 3 Corruption, Federation Force, then it goes to Metroid 2, Super Metroid, Other M, Fusion, Dread. So this isn't the first time I've seen this. So you might be right, it might be a completely different timeline, but all the timelines that I've seen, Metroid Prime happens right after the original Metroid.
Or is it Other M that's not canon?
Well, there are other M's in there as well in this timeline.
I'm starting to think Prime is canon, but my only argument was Alex is the only one who's played him. So I thought he'd have the solid answer, but I don't know anymore.
I don't know because it's the same thing with Prime, just silence. There's no voice actor or anything.
Yeah, apparently the Prime games take place in the period of time between the first and second Metroid.
Right,
because the Primes are made by a different producer and development, they're mostly ignored by the makers of the 2D titles.
Metroid Prime 3, isn't there a commanding officer in that called Adam?
I don't know. I didn't finish Prime 3.
Right, if I remember rightly, there's a commanding officer in that called Adam, and then he appears again in Other M, I think. You know what, we could be talking shit here. There could be people literally screaming at us.
Oh, yeah,
because they don't know what we're talking about. But as far as I know, Adam first appears in Metroid Prime 3, then he appears in Other M, and then obviously he appears as like an AI commander from Fusion onwards. So I think that ties them together. We don't know. Anyway, yeah, it's fine. But coming back to Dread anyway, I just want to talk about the final boss fight before we finish. What were our thoughts on the final boss fight against Ravenbeak?
I loved it.
I mean,
yeah, I'll go first. I thought it was hard, but it was a good kind of hard. So it was like, I was learning the patterns, like trying to like beat the boss, obviously. But yeah, just learning how to actually fight it. I don't know if I remember we were talking about it, but I actually just figured out the sun phase on my own, just because I was like, I have power bombs for a reason. I've got to be able to use them somewhere. Yeah. So that's where I ended up just figuring it out.
Yeah, no, you know me, I'm a dirty guide user, so I knew before I started.
Look, luckily I persist. Honestly, I can like throw myself at a wall over and over again. Until I get something done. So I just kept playing it over and over until I figured out every exact pattern. The only one I did figure it out, but the one that took me the longest was the power bomb. To get rid of the giant. Was it the sun that appeared in the?
Yeah, it was the sun.
Middle, yeah,
so it would appear on the screen.
Like I got to that phase so many times with like no luck at all on how to actually do it, and it was really pissing me off. And then it hit. The issue with that is the game gives you the power bomb so late into the game that I just forgot I had it. Like I genuinely just didn't.
That was weird.
Yeah, because you didn't really use it. Obviously, if you went and backtracked and got all the power ups and stuff, you'd use it a bunch. But
you didn't really need them.
Yeah, actual story wise,
you were going for 100%.
You got it pretty much before the second to last boss, and then the last boss is pretty much straight after. So it just felt a bit pointless. But yeah, it's one of my favorite boss fights in any game. Probably in like the past like 5 years, honestly. Yeah. I don't remember a boss. The only other boss fight like that I can that's in my head constantly, from a game that's released like with like the past like 5 years or so is the Sephiroth fight in the Final Fantasy VII remake. Just because of like how spectacular and how big it was, and it was a lot different in Final Fantasy because it was more of like a spectacle, and it was like this huge like thing. But the Ravenbeak fight was just so well built. That like I just couldn't stop myself from enjoying it. It was just such a finely crafted fight, and they clearly thought about it for ages about like his exact movements and how it'd work. And I was just really impressed with it. I find it very difficult to not say it's one of my favorite boss fights in the last 10 years or so. It's just really, really well made.
Yeah.
And the build up to it is fantastic as well. Like he feels like a final villain, like 100%.
Definitely. I wish I'd have paid more throughout the game, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. It reminds me a lot of. I know we talk about this fucking game a lot. Like if you tallied up the games that we'd mentioned on this podcast, Hollow Knight will be at the top. And it reminds me a lot of Hollow Knight and how the boss fights are created in that game and how they're so well built and everything can be avoided. It's difficult to avoid, but everything can be avoided. It's once you learn the patterns, then you feel like an actual god. when you during the third phase. I think it's probably because I read a guide beforehand, but the first time I got to the first phase, I beat it. The third phase, I got it first time. Because
Really?
of that, so yeah, because that sun thing is probably the hardest thing to avoid if you don't get rid of it. Because obviously it shoots, you just these little gaps you can get through it. But if you put down a super bomb, you can do it first time. Obviously, I only had 2 super bombs, and he did that sun thing 3 times, so I had to avoid it the third time. But yeah, I beat it first time when I got to the third phase. For the final boss, did you guys use the lock-on missiles at all?
Yeah.
No, not no.
I didn't use them. I didn't feel like I had time.
I didn't really use lock-on missiles against. The only time I used lock-on missiles in the boss fight was against the Hell boss, where he had his tentacles up all around the room. That's the only time I used it. Outside of that, I only used it for doors. I didn't
use them for
combat.
Chozo soldiers.
No.
Oh, they are piss easy if you use the
raw
lock-on.
missiles.
Yeah, if you use the lock-on missiles for them,
I
Yeah,
found, well,
really easy.
by the time I'd fought like 4 of them, I was just sort of used to it. So I was used to the pattern of just running around in a circle.
It just makes the fights a lot faster, especially when you're fighting 2 of them. You can get one down.
Yeah,
As long as you focus on one, you get one down really quick with lock-on missiles. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all we can talk about. Everything else we discussed on the main podcast, didn't we? Unless anyone else has anything.
I will say as well. I'm praising like the boss team for the game. It's also a testament to how good the controls are in that game.
Yeah.
They're incredibly refined, and that's one of the main reasons why the boss fights work so much. Because even if your reflexes aren't the best, you can dodge in like the blink of an eye and like slide under something or jump over something, as long as you're ready for it. And like I said, it's just a testament to how well they must have tested those controls for hundreds and hundreds of hours to get it right.
Yeah.
It's like one of the smoothest games I've played, like 2D games I've played anyway, where I feel like I feel like if I played that game enough, I could speedrun it. Like I happily speedrun it as well. And every time I failed, it would be entirely my fault, not the game's in any way. It would just be me.
It would be a fun game to speedrun, considering you can beat it like really fast. I know to unlock like the best ending, you have to beat it under 2 hours, 100%.
Yeah, the actively
so that's just like playing the game normal.
Yeah. I hope a game's done quick this year or next year at this point. We see a couple Metroid Dread speedruns, because I also want to see how you can break that game, honestly, with how with glitches and stuff, because again, I bet you can break that game like really like a ton. Because I bet they purposely put stuff in where you could break it if you could do stuff a certain way. But that's only for the skilled players though. I'll never reach that level, sadly.
I will say as well, right at the end, after the credits, when it came up with the Metroid Zero mission, did anyone else think that they unlocked Metroid Zero mission to play?
I did, because I thought it was copying
like the other games where it was like, the original Metroid.
Was it Zero Mission or Fusion?
Zero Mission came up first, so I was like, oh shit, can I play Zero Mission on the Switch now?
I was honestly,
and then it came up with Samus Returns, and then I think I got another one as well. Might be Fusions.
Yeah, but it's just art pieces in it, depending on how fast you beat the game and how much you collect.
And then I looked it up. There's like one for Other M. There's one for Super Metroid.
Wow, they actually acknowledge Other M.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it controls, especially when you compare it to the previous games in the series.
Oh, beautiful! I can't go back. I don't think I can go back to the older ones. I'm very glad I played through them first.
Yeah. I remember you saying this, Lewis. Would you prefer it if you could use the D-pad though? Because I remember you saying that you would rather use a D-pad when playing 2D games.
I think I got used to it. It was a bit jarring at first, but I feel like they built the game around the analog stick really well. Obviously, if they built it with D-pad in mind, then obviously I'd prefer the D-pad. But they clearly built that game around the 360 analog controls.
I just realized, because you need to click in the stick for speed booster, so that's probably why they didn't make it so you could use the D-pad.
You got the smooth movement of the aiming as well. If they went back to the D-pad, they might have to kind of lock it.
They'd have to do what they did in Samus Returns.
Zero Mission.
Oh, Zero Mission as well, yeah, where you've got it like no, Samus Returns specifically, where you have to like hold LB or whatever to like aim in specific areas, because I hate it.
Oh right, I thought you meant like just moving up and down.
No, because it stopped all the momentum in Samus Returns when you'd have to like hold L or whatever to like actually aim where you want to aim, and it was just annoying. But yeah, I'd find it very difficult to play the previous games now if I'd played this one first. So I'm super happy I played them all, because I'll probably never play them again. But I'm happy I got them out of the way because it would have ruined it otherwise, I think.
Yeah. Anything else from anyone else?
No, that's
Let's just hope for Metroid 6.
Metroid 6.
Hopefully.
Yes, indeed.
Hopefully.
Well, it's sold enough. The car, obviously, the ball's in their court now, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
People have bought it. People have supported it. Apart from the people who emulated it. Fuck you guys.
Bastards.
Yeah, it's sold plenty. There's obviously big interest in Metroid. Metroid Prime 4 is just going to confirm that when it comes out. They really should bring out a Switch collection of the other three because there's going to be so
definitely.
many people who haven't played the first three. So
They're not really that accessible either.
No,
if you've got a Wii U.
They 100% will bring out a collection. It's just we'll get it a lot closer to the release, and I still don't think we're seeing that game for like 2 years.
2 more years.
minimum.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they restarted, didn't they, Retro Studios?
Yeah, so we will get it definitely because they'd be stupid to just be like, yeah, play 4, but not 1, 2, or 3. Go pull out your Wii from 16 years ago. go get a copy.
Yeah, no, Nintendo haven't made any terrible decisions in the past, so I think.
Are you sure?
Yeah, we'll end it there. Just to quickly say, we've moved away from the Crub Studios run because it will kind of the two projects were kind of clashing a little bit, and this is like for the good of the.
Yeah, too much conflict of interest. So
yeah, exactly. So we got our game podcast channel, and then you still got, if you still want to watch board game stuff, go over to Crab Studios. Niall does all the stuff over there. And to follow our TikTok, we're at Play Talk Repeat now, and we'll have some more social medias at some point in the future.
I believe all social medias will be Play Talk Repeats, although we know hassle we're trying to find us on different platforms.
They'll be in the description.
Yeah.
Look forward to our next podcast. That'll be on the 15th. That'll be a news and discussion. And then we are hopefully, a few days after that, going to be uploading our first Zelda podcast, which will centre around Skyward Sword. Until next time, we shall see you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.